And welcome to this week's episode of Baaaaaack Blab, the first and only video baseball podcast put on by Baaaaacks, for Baaaaacks, inspired by, those fellas right there. Some private eyes of Daryl Hall and John Oates. Tony, what's on the on Santy's list tonight?
Let me read my list here. This is not garbage. It's a very nice notepad. We're going to talk about the Oriole Park foursome that happened last night, as well as Memorial Day commemoratives and also some hoopla around some of the other marketing that happened around Memorial Day items in the MLB. I'll give a quick review of the East Coast road trip that I did, as well as ask David about his future plans, which may or may not include some driving of his own. Then we will talk a little bit about some ejections, since people seem to be getting ejected lately. Then we'll talk about some Astros, because they kicked the Twins' ass this last series. It wasn't even close. I don't really want to talk about it, but we're going to talk about it. And then finally, we're going to finish with a Larry special. I don't know that I want to tease exactly what that means, because maybe we'll have a special guest, but it does involve Chicago, probably.
All right. So, Tony, it appears that our friends in Baltimore, and you might be able to give a little bit more insight to this since you were just there. There was I think that they hit for the Grand Slam last night in Baltimore, coming out with 4 home run balls.
Yes, they did. So I think that was, let's see, it was Alex, Grant, Tim, and Chris all got a home run. And it looked like it was Grant's last game at Oriole Park as a regular, because he's going to be moving to Boston here. 4 home runs hit last night, all by the Yankees, and all 4 of them got one. So how cool is that? And I know that they also had a Sports Illustrated Now article written about them online. So way to go, fellas.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I guess I could make it better that if it was the Orioles that hit them, and it could kind of been like a going away party, I guess, there for Grant. But it's kind of like a party favor if it were like a Baaaaaack Fest, that as you're leaving, everyone gets a ball on their way out.
Yeah.
But I mean, and I kind of moved more towards playing the home run balls, just because it's a lot more fun, a lot more exhilarating. And I know that feeling of getting a home run ball, and Tony, you do as well. Now, I know they do it quite often there in Baltimore. And to get one on the same night, it's pretty unheard of and pretty exciting as well.
Yeah, especially 4 guys. I mean, it'd be cool enough if like 2 guys did it. And I would also think that it'd be cool enough if you got 2 home runs in one game. But if all 4 of you could all catch a home run and do that, it would be. I don't even know how to describe it. Like, it would feel like nights of baseball that I could ever imagine. Let's think of it this way: which other 2 would we want to catch home runs with if it was me and you at a game with 2 other guys? I did too.
Yeah, okay. Well, kind of what I was thinking as well is, what are the chances, like, which one do you think is more likely to happen? That 4 people that you're familiar with, and then part of a group, each one of them get a home run ball, or one person get multiple home run balls as well?
It seems like, just based on the numbers, it seems like it's been more likely that a person walks away with like 2 home run balls or more from a game. But I don't even know. Like, are there 4 Baaaaacks that you know of at Atlanta that are semi-regular that you could fill that out with?
I would say the most that's come close has been 2, that myself and one other person that would be a regular, not necessarily a Baaaack, but a regular in the outfield at Turner Field. We both got one on the same night. So I guess 2 by some people in the same group wasn't really a ball hawk, like I said though, but kind of someone who's a regular in the outfield. And no, he's not necessarily going out. He's not sitting there to try to get home runs. I don't think he had a glove with him, but I would think 4 by different people is a bit more of a challenge, but 2 by one individual is pretty special as well.
What I think that we should do is maybe talk to the Ball Hawk Talk boys and go for a really low attendance series at one of the easier ballparks, and all 4 of us sit in the outfield and see if we can make it happen. And maybe we should do it live, like on one of our channels.
Ooh, that might be something in the works.
What do you say, Larry?
Don't hear
anything. Dang.
No.
Moving on to Memorial Day. First of all, I was able to get 3 of those really cool looking baseballs. I don't want to complain too much because it's cool that there's commemoratives and that there's a different ball in use, but the pattern itself it doesn't stick out that much, especially when it's mud rubbed. You can't tell that there's 2 tones for the stitching. It's not bad. I mean, it kind of makes sense because it's camo, so it kind of blends in. But I think the biggest thing that we wanted to talk about was those new era cap ads that each team tweeted out. Did you see those, David?
I did see it, and it did draw a little bit of ire down here. Not necessarily, and I can't remember what the whole ordeal was behind it originally here in Atlanta. But when I read it and it said, tip your new era cap for Memorial Day. No, if it just wanted to say support the troops and remember those that have passed and all that, if it would have just left out the new era cap part of it, I don't think it would have been that bad. But when it plugs their product right in the middle of trying to do something for Memorial Day, I think it kind of ruined the whole what they were aiming for. Yeah, I know New Era is spending who knows how much money to put their logo on the side of caps and to be part of the official hat of Major League Baseball, but sometimes you just have to think past the kind of what I think called the dummy test. Would a dummy do this? No. Yep. If the answer is no, then don't do it. Yep. So I think their intentions were right in trying to do something to honor the troops and those that have passed, fighting for our country, but at the same time, don't insert yourself in the middle of that.
Yeah, when you're trying to capitalize on the loss of life, no matter how well intentioned, it doesn't look good. And kind of like you said, my test that I have for it is the cringe test. If you could show that to a group of people and no one cringes, but if people are like, ugh, that doesn't seem right, then maybe don't go with it. And I totally agree with you. It's one of those deals where had they just left it at something like tip your cap to those who have given their ultimate sacrifice on this Memorial Day, without plugging themselves, A-okay. Everyone already knows that they're the official sponsor and that they make the majority of the hats that are sold at ballparks. So it's not like you need to advertise as part of that. It's kind of instinctual. If you go to the ballpark and buy a hat, it's going to be one of theirs. So it could have just been kept at that.
Yeah, and I think as much as stuff is commercialized now, let Memorial Day and Veterans Day, don't commercialize that. You don't need to do anything except just send out your thanks. So I think it's one of those things that hopefully that they've learned that it probably sounded like a good idea at first in theory, and then when you put it out there, now they kind of got the blowback. So learned, I guess, move on. Now is it something to fry or to protest New Era from? No, not really, but no, just see what they do in the future and make more judgments on them based off of how they handle similar situations in the future.
The other little bit of cringeworthiness is, since I'm subscribed to some of the teams' email things that each team puts out, right away I also got a few emails, I think either late that Monday or early that Tuesday, about the Stars and Stripes collection that was coming out for 4th of July right away. So I mean, it's I get it. MLB wants to capitalize on this, and one of those partners is New Era, making all those different looking caps. But just give it a rest, especially when it's about people that are losing their lives, or something that's not necessarily something that you should advertise on. So just let's give it more than a day to cool down, and then we're gonna get bombarded by 4th of July stuff anyways. Just let it come naturally. I don't need those push notifications showing me all sorts of buy this, buy this. It's getting a bit much.
And I think part of the thing is too is, with the hats, I get that they're trying to, one, sell more hats, and what their marketing people tell you is honor the troops as well. But I think part of it as well is when you start looking at the hat itself, it's a green camouflage, which is normally the Army. Now, are they going to rotate through each year and have different types of hats for the different branches of the military? Is Memorial Day just going to be Army related? I know in the past they did have a more of this sand knit, or the sand beige color. That might be more of a Marine color. Are they going to do one that's Air Force related? Are they going to do one that's Navy related? Or is it just going to be the camouflage green?
I can't remember what year it was, maybe 2006 or so. I forgot for what. Maybe it was Memorial Day, but one of those days, the league did do something, and they weren't just honoring or anything like that. Each player had like a different branch of the military service. Because I have a Pat Neshek, I think it was a Coast Guard hat. So it was kind of cool, because it was just like a plain, like, it just had like USCG on the front, and of course each branch had their own hat. But that was, like you said, it's kind of cool that they were inclusive and honored each individual branch. So like you said, maybe they'll go that route in the future, but I think for right now they had a little bit of oversight when it comes to Army specific, but who knows?
All right, or maybe that, I know when the Braves have their days that they honor the military, have it be Memorial Day or Armed Forces Day, or whatever it might be. They have 5 different flags out there for the Army, Air Force, Navy, Marines, as well as the Coast Guard. With it being 30 teams, they could each, 6 teams could each take one of the branches and have a uniform branch of the military. So I don't know, just a way to get all the branches of the military, not just focus on just one. Just ideas.
Agreed, as well as maybe some first responders, because there's also police and fire departments that not necessarily military, but definitely things that help service or others and keep people protected. So that might be something to look at, and not, like I said, not necessarily for Memorial Day, but for another day. And
Which
I guess
I've always thought, I've seen them come out in batting practice wearing these specialized hats for the police or the EMTs of the fire department, especially after 9/11. I know the Yankees and the Mets had the special hats. And I think the Braves had them as well. And I don't remember who the Yankees were playing that first series back. They had them for a pregame and all that, but why not let them wear those hats during the games as well? It's not as if they're going to violate anything. Major League Baseball just let them wear that hat for a special day. And if you want to make it a true baseball hat, then put the team logo on the side, maybe instead of the New Era. But if you want to include it, or if you want to make it a big deal, put it across the front and with a certain uniform, and throw the team logo on the side. So,
or if it's
moment.
first responders, why not put a big light on top to make it spinning and like woo woo? Huh?
And maybe when the runners are running down the baseline, they have a siren that tells everyone like get out of the way. And they can make it to first.
Make baseball safe.
Make baseball safe again. Yes.
All right.
So
shall we move on?
Tony, also, yeah, but you know what? I think this segment kind of flows into our next segment, because I think we're talking about ejections next. If not, maybe we should.
We can switch it up. Let's do ejections and then road trips.
Okay, because the ejection happened on the same day that I think it was a Sunday that they're honoring that they're wearing these uniforms, and that's the Bryce Harper and Strickland. I can't remember his first name. Hunter Strickland.
Boom boom.
And I think a lot of you have seen it today, or by now, and I think the ejections were upheld, and Harper had a day or a game taken off the end of his. I think he ended up with 4 total games, and Strickland 3. Okay, so it was originally 4, and so he's down to 3, and Strickland's at 6, I believe.
Yep.
Tony, I know we've kind of talked about the unwritten rules in the past. Thoughts on the whole incident and how baseball handled it?
Thoughts is I definitely can see where Bryce Harper is coming from. To hold on to a grudge for 3 years, especially when you won it all, is pretty pathetic. With that being said, I don't necessarily... It's kind of funny because just before that, he was talking to grade schoolers about don't go for participation. It's all about wins. Well, if you care about the kids too, maybe don't show off the violence in the game. So that's just an idea. But I think that there was also a little bit of karma, because it looks like Jeff Samardzija knocked out Michael Morse. So Morse is going to be gone for 7 games because he has a concussion and will be on the concussion DL. So overall, I think people got what was kind of coming for them, and it will be interesting. I don't think the Giants have a team that can make it into the playoffs, but should they, and those 2 teams meet again, I think we have a National League version of Toronto versus Texas on our hands.
Yeah, I think from my point of view, a lot of it was built up and should have let go on a long time ago. If someone hit home runs off of you in the playoffs that long ago, no, take your medicine, move on. I guess this was the first time that they've faced each other since then. But I think if you are looking for any sort of retaliation, it needs to be within a certain time frame. When you're looking at 3 years later, Harper knew exactly what it was for. That's why he charged the mound. But baseball, I think, is going to police itself. I think it was I can't remember who the writer was, but he was writing something about this having no place in baseball, which I don't completely agree with. Does it need to be on a nightly basis? No. People talk about baseball being boring. No. I think that's what it draws a lot of people to hockey as well. The people that aren't necessarily hockey aficionados and really don't know what's going on in the game, they might tune in because they know there might be a fight here or there. And I think, as with hockey, there's a lot of things that happen within the game that your average viewer is not going to understand. Is Bryce Harper just going to walk to first base and not stick up for himself? I don't know. No, it's a tough question. Don't know a lot of the past between these two either. Maybe they've Harper's trying to reach out to him in the past and say, hey man, or one of them tried to reach out to somebody and it didn't go over that well. Maybe they just don't like each other in general. think Chipper Jones set out a tweet today about baseball and people complaining that it's not exciting, and you can't touch the catcher anymore. You can't take out runners at or the second baseman or shortstop. Now people complain that it's not exciting anymore, but then they complain when something like this happens. Huge deal from the standpoint of it being part of the game, because it doesn't happen on a regular basis. I think the whole situation of what happened in Atlanta with the Blue Jays kind of was a situation similar that was handled fairly well, except a lot of what was said. You have Jose Bautista, who's known for flipping bats, and he knew he probably shouldn't have done it as he's rounding first, and Jace Peterson has something to say to him. The catcher, by the time he gets out and people come out, start shoving, yelling, and then they went back to their benches. And it's just a lot of chest puffing more than anything else, and I think it was a lot of nothing in that situation.
The thing that I have a tough time with is it seems like a lot of this is people taking exception to other people kind of not necessarily gloating or like bragging, but like really, like you said, kind of pumping their chest when they do something well. I get that hurts, and I get that sometimes is a bit too much, but I think the Ian Kinslers of the world and even Hunter Stricklands of the world have to remember this is a game. It should be fun. If guys are going to pump their chest after hitting a home run, or vice versa, if pitchers are going to get all jacked up when they strike out a guy to close out a tough inning when the bases are loaded, so be it. It's going to make things a lot more fun for fans. It's going to make things fun on the bench for your team. But remember that it's going to suck when the other team does it. There can only be one winner. There can only be kind of one player who gets that kind of tide-changing type of hit or strikeout. So don't take exception to it. Just relish in the opportunity when it's your shot to make that big play or come up big for your team.
And I think my overall stance on it kind of has been, if it goes on, it doesn't bother me because I do see it as part of the game. But from my standpoint, if you don't like someone showing you up, don't give them a reason to.
Yep.
Strike them out instead. On the flip side of that, if it's me, I've kind of been of the theory of act like you've done it before as well. Doesn't mean don't get excited. I think there's a professionalism to getting excited as well. I'm not opposed to bat flips. I kind of find them fun. If you're down and you're losing and you're flipping your bat, I think you're just kind of making yourself look like an idiot more than anything else. That you're showing that you care more about your own stats than you do that your team's losing. So, and I might be one of the few people that I kind of like that passion and fieriness from Jose Bautista, that he is doing that. And I think like I said earlier, he realized what the situation was when he did it. And I think he just does it, not even thinking about what he's just done. So fan of the bat flip, you don't like it, don't let him hit a home run then.
Yep.
So.
And the other question that I kind of had that I don't have an answer for, and I doubt that you have an answer for, is I kind of wonder if this type of stuff happens in like the Latin leagues, like your Dominican ball or Cuban ball or things like that, because those guys typically, kind of stereotypically, have more passion. You see it with a guy like Jose Bautista. You see it in some of the players that come from the Dominican and Cuba. So I feel like they're kind of more used to it and don't take offense to it as much. They kind of just relish in the opportunity to do it themselves. So I'd really be curious to kind of look at American ball versus kind of your South American or Caribbean leagues.
Yeah, and I think we kind of touched on that a little bit when we were talking about the WBC show. think that might have been episode 26, maybe. I have no idea.
I think this is 5, so that
whatever episode it was. If you there's a fine line, I guess, between action that you see in the Central American and the Latin American countries, and what you see in American youth baseball. I know some of the younger games that I've been to in the past, a lot of it's parents screaming at umpires and players and coaches, and I have no idea what they're screaming about. So it's not like they're necessarily cheering on their team. They're just out there to yell and complain more than to get excited about the game itself, or the Latin American game itself. So I think.
Are you thirsty, by the way?
I am. I'm parched.
I'll give you one of these.
A lot of talking here.
Let me know. Oh, you got it?
I got it. Oh, yeah. Whew. So I think a lot of it starts with, thanks, Mrs. Abneri. I think a lot of it might just come from how parents raise their kids and what's important and things like that. Of my parent is constantly on the other team. My parent is constantly on the umpire. My parent is constantly on the coaches. It's less more. It's less. Tony, you want to take it from here for a second while I quench my thirst.
It seems like you were losing it there for a little bit. Hopefully some moisture and wetness really helps out. Wow, you are pounding that like a man.
Whoa. Here, there's a little bit left. You want it back?
Sure.
Okay, there you go.
Whoa!
I hit the spot.
It must.
But I guess
it looks like it changes flavors when we pass it. That's kind of cool.
That is neat. Interesting. But I guess getting back to my point is, I think a lot of times when you have parents that are putting emphasis on Johnny doing well, maybe not necessarily the team doing well, that you kind of lose the focus of why they're out there. Is it for the passion of the game, or is it more for to be seen? So, or not to be shown up. Tony.
Well said.
Actually, that might.
I don't know what's going on. It seems like someone might be distracted.
There might be. And I didn't know, we didn't talk about this earlier, but you touched on a little bit when it came to youth baseball and brought to the Little League about participation trophies. Do you want to expound on that, or we want to go into that at all, or do we want to say that for a rainy day?
I think that would be a good episode on its own.
Okay, I think we'll put that in the hopper of things to do.
Everyone can participate in that one.
They can. All right, then. Moving on. What do we have next?
Let's jump back a step and let's cover what was lost. I did a road trip, and it was good. I got to see 4 out of the 5 stadiums that I had planned. Big ol' to Cleveland, because you got rained out. So thanks a lot. Still got to see the stadium a little bit as I waited outside in the rain for almost 2 hours. They were supposed to open up the gates at 4 o'clock for a 6 o'clock game. Didn't tell us until about 6:30, or not 6:30, but 4:30. It wasn't actually the guards who told me. I saw on Twitter before anyone else could say anything. So it is what it is. I'm a little bit bummed that I don't get to see that, but gives me a reason to go back out. But as for the rest of the trip, put up some good numbers for catching baseballs. Got 6 in Pittsburgh, 6 in Philadelphia, for an average of 6 in Pennsylvania. 6 plus 6 divided by 2, pretty sure it's 6.
12 divided by 2 is 6, yes.
Okay. And no rounding error, I don't think. Then the next game was seeing my Twins beat the pants off in a 2-0 game of the Orioles, these colors.
Were they running around in jock straps?
Not that I remember, but well, they probably were, but they had more clothes.
Oh, I didn't know if they had beat their pants off, if they were just running around in their sliding pants.
Yeah, and some of the guys don't wear jock straps, so maybe I'd be concerned. I would hope that they would wear underwear, but I don't know their habits. Got 7 there, including a commemorative, the 25th anniversary of Oriole Park at Camden Yards. So that was very nice. Thank you to Jason Castro, former Astro, which that was the team that just killed the Twins in this last series. Okay. Then moving on, so that was game 3. Game 4 was in DC, and the band that I played before this show, the lead-in, was from DC, a local punk group, and that will be in my write-up. All's out there, and it was really cool overall to go to each stadium and meet some of the ball hawks that I haven't met before. Specifically at Oriole Park. I'm still bummed overall though, because I didn't have a lot of time in each of the stadiums. So I think next time, since I won't have to be taking in a new stadium and I won't be focusing on getting easy balls, it will give me more time to either pick their brain or hang out with them either before or after the game. So overall success, 27 baseballs in 4 games in 4 new ballparks, and I'm ready for more. And I went to a baseball game at Target Field here on Monday, and it just back. I wanted to be still on the road, taking in new ballparks. But do you have any plans that are similar? Like,
I was going to ask you, did you have a celebrity sighting as well?
Celebrity?
Did you see like a celebrity in Baltimore, maybe?
I don't know.
That we may have seen the same celebrity in the same week. Maybe a quick, how do you do?
Why am I blanking out on this?
There's someone that may have been in the area, specifically at Camden Yards, that may have just seen you quickly. That was in Atlanta on Tuesday.
Actually, that was at Nationals.
Oh, it was in Washington. Okay.
Yes, so that's very good. That's a link between us. Mr. The hamster himself, Zach Hampel.
The
hamster. He did do a doubleheader kind of sorts. He went to Baltimore early in the day on Wednesday and then finished in DC that Wednesday. And so I got to see him at DC, and it was kind of cool because that was the first ever time that we have gone head to head and I beat him. And it feels really weird because it wasn't my home ballpark. Then again, he did get into the gates just a little bit after gates opened, so he wasn't there as long as me. But I'll take it. I beat the king, not necessarily in great ways, but it was just cool to see him, and I'm hoping that he comes to Minnesota sometime soon. I think he will, because it'd just be nice to have more of a sit-down conversation with him, probably like you did, rather than the typical kind of whirlwind tour that he normally does at ballparks. What was he like when he met with you?
This time, during the whole opening series, he was a lot more accessible, I guess, what we'd say. Just because this time he was with a family that was doing the watch a game with Zach. So he was coming over and talking and kind of trying to explaining everything to me. I got it. I understood that it was more of a business trip this time through than anything else, and he had things he needed to attend to, and I completely got it. It's not like I felt that he was trying to blow me off. Came in. We talked for a bit, and I know that someone was employing him to be there, so he needed to have his attention over there with that group. So, and it was also the day that it rained and the game didn't get over until, was that the same night? No, night. There was a lengthy rain delay that night. Or no batting practice. No, it's all blending into right now. But I do remember at one point looking across and seeing Zach sitting there standing there in the rain behind the dugout, looking for a toss-up or a third-out ball. I did get one that day. I can't remember how it happened. Maybe it was two. It's all kind of blending in right now. But Zach may be back one more time before the end of the year for another special reason that I won't put out right now, or even when that will be. But it might happen before the end of the year.
I know what it is. He's going to be there for the first ever combination Baaaaaack Blab live show.
It could be. Might be. You never know.
Tune in. You'll never know. So let's go back to road trips. You got any preliminary plans?
I do have one in the end of June. It's more of a minor league trip, going down to Florida to hit up some of the Florida stadiums down there. But I probably will be stopping by Marlins Park on the way through. So I know all those viewers out there know that might have a season ticket or access. Might be coming to ask you a few questions about pulling a favor or something to get into the stadium a bit early. And actually, just this week, I started planning a trip for the last week of the season. Don't know if I'm going to pull it off yet. That would include Boston, both New York stadiums, as well as Cleveland. Both. So that's going to be 4 stadiums. 3 of them I've not been to yet.
That's weird. It's like, hey, what? Really big cities, and then Cleveland.
And then Cleveland. I was going to throw Kansas City in there, but that might be biting off a little bit more than I feel like chewing.
I can see why. So I guess we will talk about really quickly, going back to this team, the one that just slaughtered me. A quick, maybe 1-minute recap. They scored 40 runs against the Twins, including scoring 2 touchdowns in the final 2 innings of the Monday Memorial Day game. I would like to call that the Memorial Day Massacre at Target Field. The Twins were up 8-2 after 7 innings, and then lost 16-8. Have you ever witnessed anything like that in person? That epic of a collapse?
Not in person. I don't know how it would equate to the Patriots coming back and beating the Falcons earlier this year in the Super Bowl. It might be similar. I think that's one of the great things about baseball, though, is that there is no clock.
Yep.
And even if it was the 9th inning at 2 outs, you still have the opportunity to keep going because time's not going to run out on you. You just got to keep from getting out.
And that they did with that 11-run 8th inning. Way to go, bullpen. Irvin Santana pitched 7 great innings, only giving up 2 runs, 1 earned, I believe, and then that happened. So I think for me, the Astros look to be for real right now. They're beating teams, not even close. And I'm not saying that the Twins are necessarily a great team right now, but they were riding that high of sweeping the Orioles, and the Orioles were in first place at the time. To go off of that high of sweeping a first-place team to getting swept by a first-place team is pretty massive, and by those type of transitive properties, I believe that means that the Astros are basically the World Series champs.
As Sports Illustrated predicted, right? Did they say
Correct.
2017?
And that was the 2014 year, wasn't it?
It might have been, yeah. So Sports Illustrated is in. They do I think what? Almost what?
Do you think that they're for real? The sphincter says what?
A sphincter says what? I believe.
What? Exactly.
Yes, my biggest question is if you see a lot of these teams that can put a lot of runs on the board, but when they get into the postseason, they sometimes struggle to score because they don't have ace pitchers. Maybe it does see that Keuchel's gotten things straightened out. He kind of struggled the last year and a half or so. Their pitching, it's going to dictate if they can make a run in the postseason, just like any team. But Astros, I think of offense. I don't necessarily think of their pitching. I don't know if they necessarily have that elite ace. I know they have, but do they have the elite ace to be able to carry them through the playoffs? And sometimes that's what it seems, is that you have that starter that will win game 1 or game 2 and game 6 or game 7 on short rest, or they're making a relief appearance to pitch 2-3 innings to shut somebody down. Do they have that pitcher to be able to do that? And that's going to be the big question.
Agreed.
The offense to do it.
I think that they're kind of poised to almost be like the Cubs were this last year, where they have an offense that can just blow away people in the regular season, and then hopefully their bullpen stays strong. And if they do, I think that they'd have just enough to piece together a nice championship run. But like you said, it all comes down to pitching. It all comes down to being a complete team when you need it. We're a quarter of the way through, and it's hard to measure a season based on a quarter of a year, but they definitely are the best in baseball through 50-ish games right now.
I think the thing that can always derail a team, now I can speak for this firsthand because Atlanta's lost their premier player for, we're looking on about 8 weeks now, but he's out a total of 10, are injuries that you never know when they're going to pop up. Now these freak injuries, both Freddie Freeman being out with a broken wrist and Mike Trout being out with his thumb injury for 6 to 8 weeks as well. Now these things happen. It's not like, oh, we know that he has bad knees, so we're just waiting for his knees to give out. We know so-and-so has a bad back, so we're just kind of biding time. Now, these are things that you really can't prepare a team for, and you just hope you have a good backup plan.
That reminds me of something. So you said something about a bad back?
A bad back.
Right? So what do you think
Yes.
that you would need if you had a bad back? Because I can tell you right away.
A good front.
I need a backiotomy.
A backiotomy, right?
For those listening at
Oh,
I would say watch Half Baked. It's one of the best movies ever. Has nothing to do with baseball, but quotable as hell. And look, we just related it to baseball. So
hey, we just had someone pop in. You're
yeah,
a guest.
and talking about a backiotomy, I think someone needs a shoulderotomy. But it sounds like he got one of those and is feeling better.
Yes.
Mr. Larry Larson.
Ooh,
Hello.
from
How you
the
doing?
popular baseball video podcast, Baaaaaack Talk.
Yes, indeed.
So how's the rehab going? Are you pitching yet? Are you facing live batters? What's the prognosis?
Right now, just kind of focused on hitting that 90-mile-an-hour mark. We're working on getting that velocity back up. So yeah, that's where we're at right now.
Understandable. So are we doing minor league rehab right now, or when do you think that you're going to be going back to like single A, double A, facing some live batters?
Mainly just bullpen sessions right now. Working with the pitching coaches, making sure my mechanics are all squared away, and we're looking for a return to the big leagues here. Maybe for the playoffs.
Nice. So you're kind of like the Kyle Schwarber of 2017.
Indeed, yes.
Nice.
That may be the case.
I heard Larry had it on had some inside info on that.
Yeah, you did have some insight.
I actually did. Yeah, that was I don't know if it was a screw up on my part, but I did have that information about Kyle Schwarber that he was coming back about 2 or 3 days before they said he was flying to the Arizona Fall League.
So what we'll do is that we'll keep our information on wraps and not let it out. When you're about to be to let loose there in the postseason.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, sounds good. I wasn't sure if I wanted to tweet it, but I didn't.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Well, maybe since you're one of our guests, and it would look really tacky if you break your own news, could we break the news about you, maybe at some point, but definitely give you like the shout out or have you be on here live?
Sure thing.
Okay. And if you want to tell people, you had a torn labia, is that correct?
No, it was actually a torn labrum.
Oh, okay.
Labia. Let's look if we have a diagram.
I'm no medical professional, so maybe I'm not book with that.
That's in the shoulder, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what exactly did they do? How many anchors did you get?
Oh God, that's not a shoulder.
Don't Google that. Sorry, Mrs. Abneri.
Oh man, this is wild. But there were five anchors. 4 here, 1 back here.
I only had 3, and I had the same type of thing. So you win for most messed up shoulder, I guess.
Yeah, although I do know somebody that had the surgery and had about 12 anchors. So that was pretty screwed up.
Literally.
Me, not that bad.
So
yeah.
Your recovery time, since maybe you had more anchors than me, should be quicker because it's more secure.
I guess. I mean, I never really thought about it like that, but we're looking for a PGA return in August, so.
That is excellent. LPGA?
No, actually, just PGA.
No, because that stands for Labrum PGA Tour.
Sure. All right, then in that case, I guess.
You heard it here. Breaking news. Larry is joining the LPGA.
Oh, I thought it was the Larry Pro Golfers Association.
Yeah.
That could be it. Yeah. So the real reason why we had you on is you have something in common with our next since you're the king of number 2s, and this other number 2 is an adopted Chicago native. How do you feel about David Ross getting the number 2 on Dancing with the Stars?
I actually didn't watch Dancing with the Stars. Whoops. But I did hear about him getting 2nd place, and it's whatever.
Well, I don't
now he gets his little tour, go on ESPN and really be the color analyst, but really just talk about Dancing with the Stars the whole time.
I don't think any of us here watch Dancing with the Stars, but know that David Ross is an icon, like an American gem.
True.
Sure. I mean, honestly, he was in the broadcast booth for the Orioles-Yankees game the other day on Memorial Day. I watched that. He brings some good insight. I think he'll be a pretty good commentator.
I think he's actually criminally underrated, basically in every facet of human existence. I think his personality, he's underrated. His contributions to baseball are underrated. And obviously that number 2 ranking for dancing was criminally underrated. So I just think that he's a champion of champions, and definitely not. He's more of a GOAT than a. What did your co-host call him?
I don't know. I forgot. But he does not like David Ross.
Sad.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think David Ross spent some time in Cincinnati early in his career as well.
Yeah, he actually did. I remember.
I wonder if there's little Cole Atkins running around Great American Ballpark asking David Ross for a baseball, but he really didn't like him at all.
That's probably the real reason why he got a little bit butthurt about that. So, anything that you'd like to say about the? We'll close this off. We already discussed the Astros being for real. Are they the Cubs of 2017? And how far down will the Cubs go in this really nasty slide that saw them getting just absolutely demolished by the Padres?
You know, this year I'm really looking at two teams being like the Cubs. We'll see. We'll soon find out which one's more like the Cubs. The Astros and the Nationals. I really do like the Nationals right now. Their division is terrible, as was the Central Division. I actually was looking at the standings on this date last year, and the Cubs were 6.5 games up on the Pirates, and the Pirates in second place, they were 8 games above 500. Now, looking at the Nationals this year, they're, solid 8, 9, 10 games up in their division, but all the other teams are below 500, and I think that's the same case with the Astros. Big question with the Astros, I think, is the pitching. If Keuchel can stay consistent, the lineup's there, but I don't know if they've got anybody other than Keuchel. They just got to stay healthy.
Agreed.
But
and it would be kind of cool to see the Nationals make it pretty deep. This, just like it was the Caps year, I think it's the Nationals year. Would you agree on that?
I'm not sure, to be honest. Keep in mind they've never won a playoff series.
DC forever. Come on, Larry.
We'll see, man. We will see. I might be pulling for him.
Excellent.
As for the Cubs, oh man, I don't know. I'm writing a blog post about it right now, actually. So, short little plug. You can check out my blog. It's in my Twitter. What?
What's the web address for us?
Shit. It's curveblog.mlbblogs.com.
Excellent. David, yes. Do you have any questions for Mr. Larson?
I think another one would be, being in Chicago, so you have the White Sox that have been playing pretty well to start off the season. Are they for real as well? Are they gonna?
No, the White Sox. I don't know. I don't think they've played that well. They got off to a pretty good start. They started slipping again. I don't see them being for real at all. They really need to get a move on and deal Quintana, get more young talent before Quintana's stock takes more hit. They've got some really good young arms in the bullpen they could get to use as trade bait. Moncada, everybody's asking when's Moncada going to come up. Well, I don't think Moncada's going to come up till August or September. I mean, seeing as they're not a contender, I don't think they're going to take that risk to rush Moncada. I don't know.
What about Giolito? He's been inconsistent at best the last few years, but it looks like he's pitching well in AAA right now. I think he was an International League pitcher of the week, I think, last week. Are they expecting him to come up sometime soon?
I don't know. I'm really looking for them to deal Quintana and then bring up Giolito. But I'm really actually kind of worried about these young White Sox arms. A lot of them, I've heard that the Nationals screwed up Giolito's mechanics, and so his arm wasn't healthy for a while. I don't know if that problem's solved, but that's kind of the problem with developing young pitching talent. There's just a lot of risk involved. That's why I like the Cubs setup more than the White Sox setup rebuild wise. I'd like to see teams build more around hitting rather than pitching. But we'll see. I'm pulling for the White Sox.
And that's actually a good segue into some Twins talk, since the draft is coming up here pretty soon, and there's a big name stud high school pitcher who's been said to throw about 102 and can also play in the field, so he could be basically the next Babe Ruth. Would you, if you were the GM, Larry, would you draft a high school pitcher with the also upside of being able to hit the ball with your number 1 overall pick?
Would I take that risk? In all honesty, probably not. But I have read a lot about this kid that you're talking about. I forgot his name.
Hunter Green.
Hunter Green, yeah, he was on the cover of Sports Illustrated, and he's got a lot of talent. If I were to draft somebody like that who would be open to playing two positions, I don't think it would be really possible for him to play shortstop and be a starting pitcher, seeing that's a lot of stress on your arm. Shortstops throw a lot, and obviously starting pitchers throw a lot. You got to be careful with that. It'd be more realistic for him to be a type of closer and also play shortstop. I think that would work, seeing as he throws super hard. You might not want a guy like that putting a lot of stress on his arm, throwing 100 pitches every time he goes out, and that way you've got that upside in the field.
Twins also have the added bonus, though, of being an AL team. So, I mean, if he is really that good at hitting, you could use him as a DH as well, which is
good point.
But otherwise, yeah, I would say if you're going to play him in the field at all, convert him to a corner infielder, maybe a left fielder, and then use him as a starting pitcher if you want to. Otherwise, like you said, reliever that can also play basically anywhere in the infield would be an interesting formula. But like we've all seen, and going back to the Cubs, Mark Pryor, young arm side, but with young arms, you never know. They can blow out quickly, or they can just never live up to the hype.
You see that with the Mets too, and their whole rotation. They can be so good, and yet Matz is never healthy. Syndergaard's never healthy. Harvey even has a lot of arm problems. So yeah, honestly, if I was a GM, I would never really build around pitching. I would take more of the Cubs approach. But I don't know. With Hunter Green, it's going to be really interesting to see. I don't think he's going to go number one. A high school right-hander has never gone number one overall. I wouldn't be surprised to see that again, him not getting picked.
And I think what we've seen in the draft recently is how all the money is allocated, that the top players aren't being drafted number one is more or less based off of signability. And some of the top picks are dropping because of the slot. The amount of money allotted to them at that slot is not as much, and they can actually draft more. They can draft quantity of quality over the maybe just one or two better players.
Agreed. The one upside that I really do like from a marketing and also from a kind of a youth position of baseball and getting fans back in the game is that he is an African-American youth out of high school, which the game, I think Torrey Hunter's been former Twin there, of the kind of the drop-off of African-American youth in the sport. So if for some reason he was the one that kind of became the savior again of the youth movement, and especially for the African-American kids out there, it would be really cool, especially to have it be my home team like that.
Yeah, we've talked about that in the past on Baaaaaack Talk, actually, with the lack of African-American involvement in baseball. And you look at football and basketball, and that's just not a problem. But I don't know. Baseball's really missed out on a lot of good athletes. So I don't know. We'll see if that changes here.
All right. David, anything else to add before we sign off with our favorite number 2?
I do not have anything else at this time.
All right. Well, look for us next week. We'll be talking about things and stuff. There's even talk of both of us being at a stadium as we go live. So look out for that. And also check out Larry and Cole's competitive or competing show, Baaaaaack Talk. Really, they're not competing. They're just beating us, but that's fine because they're smart and young and have youth, and they're the next wave of awesome.
What can I say? We're awesome.
Well, you're awesome. You're awesome. We tease you for being number 2, but really on that show, you're the piss. You're the number 1.
I don't know, man. Sometimes you just can't go without Cole's hot takes.
He's like he's the like maybe
He is the PFT commenter to my big cat.
That's true. But the good news is that he shows up for you.
Yeah, for sure.
We love you, Cole. Well, with that, this song's dedicated to Cole. It's called "She's Gone" by Hall & Oates. Thanks, Larry. We love you.
Everybody's high on consolation. Ooh. Everybody's trying to tell me what is right for me.